Hey guys, back at it again with Taoist book. Back at it again with your very own. This is the book we're reading today. Let's get into it. Back into the introduction. Subtopic: Ultimate Purpose. The ultimate purpose of the Tao Te Ching is to provide us with wisdom and insights that we can apply to life. If we cannot do that, then it doesn't matter how well we understand the passages. The true Tao must be lived. At the cosmic level, the Tao of the macrocosm is represented by the law of physics. They describe the universe and its manifestations, such as light, electricity, gravity, and so on. These things exist and have real effects on matter, no matter what we think of them. The gravity of the sun exerts its pull on the planets, whether we believe in it or not. At the personal level, the Tao of the microcosm is no less descriptive and useful. Its principles describe the human sphere and its manifestations such as love, hate, peace, and violence, and so on. These principles are just as real as the law of physics. They function just as predictably and inexorably, regardless of our opinions. Lao Tzu's purpose is to illustrate these principles. If we can understand interpersonal forces among people as clearly as we understand interplanetary forces among heavenly bodies, then we too can glide through our life as effortlessly and precisely as spacecraft flying through the solar system. The ultimate worth of any translation depends on how well it achieves Lao Tzu's purpose. In the West, study of Lao Tzu has led to mixed results. Generally speaking, people understand the all-encompassing free-willing nature of the Tao quite well, but they do not connect it easily with Lao Tzu's guidelines about life that require sustained effort. The result is that many who study the Tao end up with a form of relativism, thinking that because the Tao includes everything, whatever they do is already part of the Tao. Thus, the Tao becomes the justification of any actions, positive or negative, as well as the all-purpose excuse for any results, or the lack thereof. This was never the original intent of the Tao Te Ching. The truth is that the Tao isn't just about freedom and personal liberation, it is also about discipline and diligence. While everything in existence is indeed the Tao, our path through existence is also the Tao. This may seem like a paradox, but it really isn't. When we can see it, we can see it clearly by following the thought process of the sages. Think of existence as a forest. When we're in a forest, we have the ability to go forth in any direction. The forest doesn't care which path we take. It is the nature of the forest to offer all directions and all possibilities. This is the way of the forest. In other words, the Tao of existence. We can wander in the forest aimlessly for as long as we wish, but at a certain point, some of us will be ready to choose a destination and go there. This destination may represent enlightenment, salvation, true happiness, or other spiritual goals. Let us think of the destination as a mountain that we, walking in the forest, can glimpse through the tree branches from time to time. There are paths in the forest that will take us to the mountain. These paths are easy to traverse, and are marked by those who went before us. Inexperienced travelers may not be able to recognize the markings, but the Tao Te Ching is a map that can help us. When we follow the map, we move in a particular direction with a particular purpose. The progress we make is our way through the forest, in other words, our Tao through existence. Thus, the Tao indeed encompasses all, just as we have the freedom to pick any direction in the forest and start walking. At the same time, our Tao must also be highly specific, just as we must choose one path out of many in the forest with care and foresight. If we wish to get somewhere and achieve our purpose in life, whatever that purpose may be, therefore, this book's most important mission, is to express the Tao completely as much as words can, conveying not only encompassing aspect of the Tao, but also its specific nature. To miss either attribute would be to fail the mission. Let us keep the forest and the mountain in mind as we digest each chapter. Where are you in life? Where are you going? These are some things, most of the important questions that we can ask ourselves. These are some of the most important things we can ask ourselves, basically. The more understanding, uh, the more we understand what Lao Tzu says, the more clearly we will be able to see the markings that direct us to a proven path. We will then be able to formulate better answers and take steps in the direction that will lead us to our goal. What will happen when we reach the summit? We will look around and take a magnificent panoramic view from the vantage point at the top. We will be able to see other mountains in the hazy distance. We may rest for a bit. We may spend the time in celebration. Then we will start out for the next destination, savoring every breath of fresh air and every sight of natural beauty. As Lao Tzu remarks in chapter 64, the journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath your feet. As you embark your journey, I wish you happy trails. See, that's the end of the introduction, guys. Mark it as the final. So we're going to head on to the note or the translation. It's about a good 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 pages long. So this is going to be I'll start now actually. I'll get into the note of translation. A test of time. In 2004, the College Board surveyed high schools to gauge interest in advanced placement courses in Chinese. The College Board expected a few hundred schools to express interest. What they found was substantially more, 2,400, or about 10 times the level of interest they expected. As East and West continue to draw together, the language barrier will diminish. The more this process continues, the more people will be able to assess Tao Te Ching translation for themselves and demand ever higher quality of fidelity to the original Chinese. Fidelity to the original Chinese for their consummation and the creation of the book. Their consumption. I believe this is inevitable, and I want this book to be one that withstands the test of time. No matter how rigorous the stand, this translation you hold in your hands will meet and surpass it. I'll be holding on this for a while. My approach. When I began translating the Tao Te Ching, I quickly realized that I needed a plan to avoid potential pitfalls and ensure as much accuracy and authenticity as possible. None of the commercially available translations withstood scrutiny. If I wish to produce a different result, I should try to approach not previously taken. Over time, I settled on the following 4 methods. Start with scratch and create an entirely original book. I could not use existing translations as references because they were not sufficiently accurate. Any similarity between this translation and others would be purely coincidental. Overcome the English-Chinese language barrier by bringing native fluency of both languages to the project. So he knew Chinese and he knows English. He knows Chinese and knows English. This alone will address many issues since nearly all the Tao Te Ching translators possess unbalanced levels of language proficiency. Reference Chinese commentaries. The unbroken tradition of Tao Te Ching's teachings began 2,000 years ago and has continued to the present time. Although no living person can claim to possess native fluency in Chinese ancient China, the commentaries give us the next best thing. They are like a window to the past. Consult the ultimate experts in the Tao. I was fortunate in having access to the Taoist masters from the Aiquan Tao lineage. The knowledge of the Tao comes from a lifelong study as well as practical application. I drew upon their knowledge to make my presentation of the Tao as authentic as possible. I also follow their example in putting the Tao to the test, to verify its truth through actual usage. As I followed the plan, I continued to compare my work in progress with existing translations and notice an additional problem common to them all: a tendency to blur the line between translation and interpretation. A literal translation, also known as formal equivalence, is the nearest linguistic equivalent between the source and target language, while an interpretation, also known as dynamic equivalence, consists of amplifications and clarifications, and so contains a lot more of the translator's personal opinions. Existing translations tend to be present interpretations as translations. Interpretations is translations. That was kind of difficult to understand. Much of this was due to format. Most editions included a few or no annotations or explanations. So the translator perhaps felt compelled to explain the original within the translation itself. This process necessarily engaged the translator's understanding. Thus, what might have started out as a literal translation got twisted more and more into an expression of the translator's thoughts. This is why the volume you and I now hold in our hands is so revolutionary. Its format allows for an extremely faithful rendition of the original that adds nothing abstract and nothing else, while providing explanations on the opposite page, clearly marked as such. With this format, I can preserve the original and still clarify its meaning, and you will never have to wonder whether some particular words come from Lao Tzu or me. The difference between the two will be unmistakable, so you can judge the interpretation for yourself. This is a note in the translations as well as under introduction, so I'll mark this one as intro end, note started, and this is the end of the video. Peace, guys. Peace.